A mysterious Roman grave, uncovered in London. A new interpretation of an ancient relic. Two breakthroughs, combining to write a new chapter in the history of the Roman Empire. The story of the gladiatrix. Roman London in the late 1st century AD, teeming with 20,000 people under the iron fist of Roman rule. At the city's heart was the amphitheatre, a melting pot for every creed and culture of the Roman Empire, every level of society from slave to senator. The home of a violent spectacle designed to entertain the legions and appease the masses. The home of the gladiators. But by AD 70, the spectacle of man slaughtering man was not enough. The mob demanded variety as well as blood. "2,000 years after the Romans conquered Britain, the Museum of London is unraveling the city's brutal history. In 1996, an excavation in Great Dover Street, Southwark, uncovered a mysterious grave. The site now houses students, directly above this gateway to London's Roman past.
Presumably all the way down to the end of the red building there was part of your excavation. And where was the burial itself?
The burial would be just in this area here.
Just underneath the...
underneath the building.
Underneath
yeah.
the red walls.
Around 30 Roman graves were found on the Great Dover Street site, but archaeologists soon focused their attention on just one. The grave was filled with artifacts suggesting wealth and status, but it was clear that these were the bones of no ordinary wealthy citizen. The unusual position of this grave was the telling factor.
It did at first appear, from the reports that were coming from the excavation, that the burial was actually in a quite different context to the other burials there, and more particularly, that it was isolated by itself, and that in fact the Dover Street burial, although to some extent peripheral, was indeed part of the whole cemetery complex.
This was one of the most lavish Roman graves ever found in Britain, but it was placed among the paupers.
The excavation showed us that there was a walled cemetery with a possible mausoleum, but this burial was actually beyond that, outside the area. Now, if you've got someone who's wealthy and influential and part of Roman society, you would expect them to be buried in the walled cemetery, perhaps with their own mausoleum.
This contradiction was to spark an archaeological mystery.
Obviously, one starts to speculate, why is this so? Why have we got this very elaborate, rich burial ceremony going on? That speculation, to some extent, starts to fuel the idea of social exclusion. Is this person deliberately being excluded from the normal burial area?
The outcasts of Roman society included slaves, criminals, and prostitutes. All would have been banished to the fringes of a Roman cemetery. None would have been given a ceremonial funeral. Only one extraordinary group had the power to overcome this social stigma and move at will through the different levels of Roman London's rigid class system. The gladiators. The idea of the gladiator was born when slaves or prisoners of war were made to fight to the death at the cremation ceremonies of wealthy citizens. But a gladiator could achieve nobility through courage in the face of death. He was then judged suitable to guide the dead aristocrat through the underworld. And the entrance to that underworld was the amphitheatre. For the pleasure of the crowd, the gladiators were taunted by a figure representing Mercury, the Roman messenger of the gods, who roamed the underworld. After a contest, Mercury made a show of dispatching the fatally injured. This role was sometimes played by Anubis, the jackal-headed Egyptian god of judgment and gatekeeper to the underworld. Significantly, 3 lamps depicting Anubis, along with a lamp showing a fallen gladiator, were found in the Great Dover Street grave, the first concrete evidence directly linking its occupant to the world of the gladiators.
We had 8 lamps that hadn't been used. 4 were just plain, but the other 4 had depictions on them that made us think that perhaps they had been chosen for their symbolism rather than for the fact that they were just lamps. We have this lamp that shows a fallen gladiator, someone who's fallen in battle and is actually holding up their hand to sort of protect themselves.